and our society. The widespread practice of abortion to protect rights of women has pitted women against their own flesh and blood and has dangerously desensitized us to life across the board. Remember the slippery slope arguments of a generation ago. Now we see, sure enough, the steady move toward euthanasia. Presented as innocuous, compassionate, it's just insidious thinking. It's slowly seeped into the national psyche and anesthetized our collective conscience. Steadily, we're gravitating toward terminating life, not to spare pain and agony, but to avoid expense, inconvenience, and disruption. And by the way, that's what's occurring. When Obama was getting together his team for Obamacare, and he got Tom Daschle, who's written a book about, talk about death panels, about terminating life based on cost. He appoints Donald Berwick, who glorifies the British socialistic system, who believes that health care ought to be a vehicle by which you redistribute wealth, and he clearly believes in the culture of death. This iPad panel that they formed will clearly make decisions about your medical decisions from the top down, which will have an effect on life. You can call them death panels, you call them what you want, you can call it alarmism, but they will make those decisions, and they'll do it on economic, materialistic justifications. And that's what I mean about us becoming desensitized. To illustrate the cultural devaluation of human life, a few years ago, the New York Times Magazine ran a piece by Steven Pinker. You've probably heard of him. He's a psych professor at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, who actually argued, now listen to this, infanticide should be legalized. Now this is a professor at a respected institution. To a biologist, birth is as arbitrary a milestone as any other. No, the right to life must come, the moral philosophers say, from morally significant traits that we humans happen to possess. One such trait is an ability to reflect upon ourselves, a continuous locus of consciousness, to form and savor plans for the future, to dread death and to express the choice not to die. And there's the rub. Our immature neonates, look how they impersonalize. Our immature neonates don't possess these traits any more than mice do. So he suggests because fetuses, because the unborn don't know if they're living or dying and don't care. I don't even know if that's true. I could go after a little bug and they don't want to die. I just don't believe that. But it's still irrelevant. Pinker suggests that since neonates are not people, infanticide should not be classified as murder, and he's not alone. Regrettably, many such misguided professors dominate our institutions and universities. And what's scary is they actually believe their own nonsense. Indeed, it can hardly be denied that the secular left at large is increasingly promoting a culture of death. Remember when the Terry Schiavo case was out? Now, you have a lot of pro-life people that might have been off the reservation, been fanatical about it, defending beyond the time that you all even think it was appropriate. What I thought was noteworthy was the other side, how militant and adamant those people were that wanted to err on the side of death. They were determined to side with that philandering, adulterous husband. They just naturally gravitate toward the bad guys and toward the wrong causes. Their hearts were in the wrong direction. That's why I call it the culture of death. So regardless of whether there's some excessiveness on our side, and there may very well be, look at the other side sometimes and look at what their mindset is. So the majesty of life is the final outpost in our culture war. If we lose the battle, if we succumb to the culture of death, we don't just continue to lose precious innocent lives, but we stand to lose our culture, our freedoms, and our way of life. Be assured that our culture war opponents fully understand they're in a war and will use any tactics to win. Lies and distortions, whatever it takes. While they point to a tiny portion of crackpots to taint the entire pro-life movement, the truth is they are the extremists. They prioritize convenience over innocent life. They elevate the grossest form of selfishness to virtue and have gotten away with it by repeating the lie. They disguise their agenda with euphemistic phrases, reproductive rights, pro-choice. If truly pro-choice, would they be against giving pregnant mothers all the information to make an informed decision about abortion? Would they conceal information about the physical, psychological, and emotional risks that I was alluding to a minute ago? It's tragic that so many of the mothers of these children are often overwhelmed by fear and panic and unaware of the full implications of their actions, and that they will have to live for the rest of their lives with the consequences of their decision. Where is the compassion from these arbiters of compassion for these women? Instead, the Justice Department arrests a 79-year-old man and tries to prosecute him. He's a Christian prayer warrior who stands outside Planned Parenthood and prays over these women and walks them in on the sidewalk and tries to convince them that there's another way. And well, they talk, and he's not offensive, and yet they're going to prosecute him just because he's trying to get information to them that they need vitally to make an informed decision. But the death culture is threatened by the full exploration of this information. So let's not fool ourselves. Chuck Colson once cited a survey of 252 post-abortive women, over half of whom said they felt forced into an abortion by others. In another survey, 70% of those who chose abortion said they believe it's immoral, but were pressured against their consciences. I didn't make this up. No, you never hear about this stuff. They feel that way. Can you imagine the guilt, the oppressive guilt that they must feel? Because you can't deny your soul unless you're completely dark-hearted and callous. We're all God's creatures. We're all sinners. We're all God. But if we do something this abominably bad, you know it has to eat at you. I don't care. I don't need statistics to tell me that. So when it comes to the issue of the unborn, we're living through a national crisis of conscience, an epic struggle for our corporate and individual souls. Though those who are the most militantly pressing for abortion rights, even abortion on demand, are either completely hardened or they are trying to work through and ameliorate their own guilt. Think about this. They're trying to work through and ameliorate their own guilt without confronting it, without dealing with it, without repenting for what caused it, or approaching God for forgiveness. The more lost they are, the more they ratchet up their campaign to force their values on the rest of us, so that by imposing their view on society, they achieve some kind of substitute collective redemption. Society pronounces that abortion is not murder, therefore their consciences are sound. They're doing nothing wrong in advocating the practice and making it more frequent and wretched. So what should we do? Assuming we could appoint enough originalist judges to overturn Roe, and we may very well, depending on how it all falls out. Legal problems would still just be beginning. You know, before Roe versus Wade, it was a matter of states, and there was different conflicting views. You had that personhood amendment in Mississippi failed because of the overbroad way the law was written or whatever, scared that, I don't know. But you still have these issues, these legal. This is the point I'm making. This is not just a legal issue, no matter what the law ends up being. It's still a matter of conscience and heart. So we can't rely just on the courts alone. We must change hearts one at a time. We should not be strident like I am, but I'll leave the non-strident CPU. More importantly, we shouldn't be desensitized. I'm wrapping this up, I'll go sleep. We shouldn't be desensitized to life. We must try getting the truth out of the spiritual and moral depravity of abortion. Not to be hateful and judgmental, because I think a lot of people do this are I don't want to call them victims, but I don't judge them. I mean, this culture, it's hard to be grounded. There's we are bombarded with so many twisted things. What is right to man is wrong in God's eyes, and we see that so prevalent in our culture today. So I don't pass judgment on these people, but I do pass judgment on the people that are manipulating it from above, who do know better. So we don't want to be judgmental about it. But we want to try to open people's eyes and get the information to them. Even if it takes grotesque stories or shocking videos Because if these videos or photographs are grotesque, they are grotesque because what they depict is grotesque. So if they represent the truth, then they're going to be grotesque if the truth is grotesque. And it's occurring in our nation every day. Opponents don't want those pictures shown because they make it impossible to be desensitized. They make it impossible to ignore how horrendous abortion is, out of sight, out of mind. But seriously, what right do we have to be selfish in the name of being civil and not wanting to offend people? What right do we have to stroke ourselves and to indulge ourselves in not getting our hands dirty, saying, we don't want to do that? And the very consequence of our refusal to get our hands dirty could result in more abortions. I'm not saying you got to be graphic and ridiculous about it, splatter all over the walls and show people how bad it is, but let's not be afraid to use that technique if it could be helpful on some grounds of political correctness, because it is the truth. And when you do see these pictures, you cannot turn away from it, because it's real and it's terrible and it's murder. So, let's not get in their faces, but let's make the facts hard to avoid. As certain successful pro-life groups have discovered, people of conscience, when confronted with hard, cold facts, sometimes do indeed have a change of heart. Tragically, far too many have accepted the lie and embraced the culture of death. But we mustn't sit idly by as our values continue to erode. We must understand the ultimate battlegrounds of this war are every individual heart in America. This is a grand moral struggle akin to slavery. The pro-abortionists are determined to fight this to the finish. They're relentless. To them, especially radical feminists, it's a power struggle. Abortion is the primary sacrament of the feminist movement. So if we love life, if we care about our culture, if we cherish our liberty, if we are to be a moral people and a righteous and honorable nation in God's sight, we must draw the line on the issue of human life. We must begin to behave like we understand that a culture war is raging, that the value of human life is its pivotal battle, and that nothing less than liberty is at stake. We simply can't afford to sit this war out. So let's do all we can, individually and collectively, to promote the cause of life, not just for the inestimable value of every human life, but because this struggle is at the core of the battle for liberty and thus the destiny of this great nation. Thank you.